Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to I Don't Know, We Can Talk About It, where we discuss myriads of topics reasonably, responsibly, civilly. My name is Kevin Dufresne. The first topic we're going to jump into concerns grading. We're going to be talking about grading through both of our topics through two articles, though the first area of grading that we are going to discuss concerns quantitative grading. Aligning grading with measures that are easily trackable, easily countable. If in case anyone that might not work in education, that might need numbers, may more easily understand data. Additionally, working with quantitative grading really helps simplify measuring processes for grading. I think having easier ways to grade, clearer ways to grade by numbers, results of student efforts is very helpful, for not only any viewer or observer of grades outside of academia, though a lot easier on an individual that may have to actually grade the work. Considering the potential fluctuation of grades, I think that grading according to fluctuating parameters that assist in fluctuating grades throughout a timeline of grading creates a sphere of understandings that not every individual observing may so easily comprehend. Now we're going to delve into the next portion of the conversation, inclusive of what we're already talking about, equitable grading, through an interview of an individual that writes a book that assists with guiding grading nationally, perhaps even beyond national understandings. When discussing gradings, looking at what makes grading fair, what balances assist an individual in working to a degree that boosts an individual's efforts. I think the points are valid. Additionally, I think grading is only one portion, a qualifying portion, yes, the one portion of all that one must consider of human spectrums in relation to long-term connections to academia, beyond academia. Assessing how an individual handles an assignment inclusive of a time measurement, can be very helpful to track. Especially if in good quantitative alignment for any seeking data of the sort, whether that be a research entity, a partnering entity within the school, or an entity that may simply be familial, supportive. Outside of the realm of academia, students are going to enter into a realm that benefits from skills that develop through academia. At the same time, any individual is apt to learning certain skills outside of academia, though obtain a credential from academia, from any learning institute, from any educational environment that certifies, that credentializes. I think equitable grading may be a good way to standardize on a large scale quantitative parameters. At the same time, I think grading must consider efforts at large that are effective for assisting a student, any individual's building of skills toward a particular outcome, toward particular processes, even beyond an outcome. Because considering that in the working world at large, considers results greatly. Very true. Though considers how processes can be most efficiently continuously. Hence, having the conversations around processes of how things are going toward a result, yes, more ongoing than a result may be occurring. Though one may consider that a result is of daily happenings, as periodically, as frequently as processes, though may not be as long as processes, due to a result being more instant in processes that individuals may be processing. The idea is that if any individual enters into a post-academic world, formally in academia, into the world at large, the working world at large particularly, the realities of processing and resulting will come into play, will come into effect. Considering the scale at large of academia, of teaching styles, of the methodologies, pedagogies, the development of human beings, considering realistically schools of being, schools of teaching, being likely different, even if in the same institution, even in an educational atmosphere, agreeing at large, though minutely differentiating effectively, respectfully to each individual in a particular educational environment, the nuances toward good need appreciation. Value comes through the communication. Value will vary per individual. Value will vary per relationship. A reality is people entering academia are entering for different reasons. Whether that be someone wants the person there or the person wants to obtain something from being there, whether someone wants them there or not, amongst many other reasons that any may consider. Why does a grading standard mean so much? In light of why a person might be going through education. The transition points of education are what really make the conversation more intense. Because once a student goes from high school to college, the parameters of grading, the parameters of being a student are very different. A student needs to be more responsible, capable, willing, in an atmosphere, in an educational atmosphere at that, where the responsibilities largely fall on a student. Shifting from being in a home environment, especially for any students that are entering college, shifting from a home environment, the parameters are a lot different. So grading scales will be different in connection with a student's understanding, with the student's historical connection of being in school. I'm in complete support of variances of teaching and learning. Additionally, I'm quite aware of how different schools observe applying students, how different universities and colleges observe applying students. Yes, if a school is looking at an application pool of 100 straight A students, what diversifies the pool will branch into talents, will likely be of the parameters on the fringes of grades. Is the student a student athlete, a member of a particular club, sharing some insight within an essay that is very appealing, that actually is effective with what the student is doing practically? For example, a student might be a straight A student, might have a plan for cancer, and might be coming from the same exact school as another student that, well, is coming from the same class, has straight A's, is practically working with fighting cancer, both of these students having the same opportunities, and the other student, though, has an interest additionally in trying to work with student athletes that may be trying to pay for medical expenses because the cost of paying for particular medical expenses is so large, and that's what the essay is about. And the school can reflect on these two individuals. The decision will be whatever the decision is. Though, what are the outliers of the grade? What's on the fringe of the grading? That is where I find individuals succeed most coming through academia. Glory stories, if you will. Grades are a measure, helpful in assessing if one is complying to rules of a particular educational atmosphere, incrementally, as well as at large. At the same time, if a student's coming into private tutoring, meeting a teacher privately, is one of the best participants in class, just develops differently, may not be the best essay writer, though may be one of the most brilliant thinkers, may be wonderful in math, may find science challenging though, the student is applying every ounce of effort to being a good student, as well as being successful in playing the cello for the school orchestra. Wonderfully successful. And is balancing fairly all responsibilities that the student may have personally. I think, well, what factors are of the assessment considering the student's long-term future? Not every student that does very well in school, grade-wise, jump into a bountiful field that is different than other students that may be doing similarly elsewhere. What are the fringes like for the student? Grading is nice, though when one is in the world at large, grading looks a lot different. Realistically, grading is almost non-existent. And what students have in shifting as human beings will be greatly beneficial to the students. I think nearly all areas of grading can be put into a quantitative state. If a student gets extra help, then the percentage marker for extra help can be in addition to grading. If a student may fulfill extra credit assignments, then a quantitative measure can be set. If homework is a measure, quantitative measures can be set. I think near every aspect, even participation, being on time can be set. because everything can be quantitatively set. Even considering the quality might be different, the affecting portions, affecting quality, can be stimulation for teaching more of why partaking in any portion of the grading is important, and why the grading is a quantitative measure to assess that individuals are approaching learning in a way that regards rules, to ensure that individuals are aware of how to be responsible in particular environments with particular guidelines. Though the lessons are beyond the grades. I'm a huge fan of quantitative measurements. I think quantitative measurements for grading are extremely possible for near every aspect, and I think that even the outlier on the fringe situations definitely need consideration. How does one consider if one is an excellent artist, if one is an excellent athlete, if one is an excellent debater, in consideration of one's grades? I think the respect of responsibilities, like I mentioned before, is very important. That an individual is quite aware that responsibilities are personally for the individual, and when the individual is clearly showing responsibility across all boards, not overlaying to use one area as an excuse for dismissing a part of another, really putting in all the efforts, then I feel as though the consideration of what the efforts are of the responsibility are easier to navigate. Not because one is being sympathetic or empathetic with any kind of bias, though one is saying this individual in the long run is forming to be a well-rounding individual, and in class, this individual is taking the appropriate steps to ensure to be successful. Not any lackadaisical effort comes by because the individual truly wants to be successful and is measuring differently in different situations, in different classes, though is applying an ever-present improving effort. It's consistent. That is so important to how an individual can progress socially and emotionally, even considering when post-academia the individual may feel differently, even about academia, even after all the grades and all the efforts, as an individual that might just be playing the cello successfully worldwide, coaching worldwide, outside of one's degree though, grateful to have one, using lessons from those experiences. Not just understanding, oh yes, all my homework is done, tests are ready, quizzes are done. Understanding, okay, here are the parameters I'm working with and how these parameters can be effective for me, not only now, but later on. Of course, we already know learning has to happen from the individual. And learning is so important, though one must really want to learn. One must understand why one is learning, and one must understand why it's important to continue learning to improve. Additionally, looking at the big picture of life, formally learning is valuable in way more ways than just grades. So with that, let's move on to some origami. Today we'll be making an origami mouse. So the way to make the origami mouse, you have to fold it in half first. Okay? So we fold this in half. Then we're gonna fold in to these instructions, which you can easily find through the link in the YouTube video's description. So after we fold in here, we go point to point. We're actually going to take in our side. We're going to take in a side here. Just going to bring it in. So after we make that nice point to point fold, we're just going to take in another and fold it in. Okay? So now we're here with a kite looking form. See this? We just take our square origami, bring the flaps in. Next, we're going to take this portion here that's hanging out. We're just going to flip it in. Flip it in. Okay, so now we have this cool looking triangle. The next step is we're going to have to fold in our flaps. Now we have to make sure we fold in the right flaps. So there are a couple of times we're going to fold in these flaps. And so this first time we're going to fold it in just like this. So on the inside, as you can see, we're going to fold in this flap here toward the center over this triangle bend that we just freshly have. Now the next part of what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over here and we're going to fold the flap in again. Try to keep it tight here because, you know, with origami, the better you fold, a lot of these outcomes can be really nice. So we're going to fold again. As you see, we turn this paper over. We just fold over here. We fold the paper again. And then on the back, we're just going to do something similar. So to both sides, as origami is really awesome with balancing. So we have this now. We fold them on both sides. Now what we're going to do is, well, of course, we're going to look at the instructions again because it'll be very, very helpful to do the instructions after these two folds. Okay, so one thing we do have to do concerning these folds, let's unfold it if you just folded it. Back from this fold, this initial fold, we're actually going to do another fold forward first. So we're going to do another fold, just do them at the corners of the old fold. So again, the initial fold here, we come up here, remember this fold here? We bring this, when it was originally here, that third fold here, we bring it up, then we fold inside. Then we fold up. Now we're going to take this time to turn it around and we're going to just fold the back side. Now we're going to do that back side fold here. Okay? All right, we fold this back side up. Okay? And now that we have this back side fold, we're going to do something pretty cool. I'm going to go to the instructions just to double check here. That's correct. Yes, that's correct. So now what we're going to do is we're going to actually take our fold in. Okay, we're going to take our fold in here. So we have this, we have to go with this diamond form here. So I think another way we can do it, it's going to be tight here. It'll be pretty cool, I think. Yep, there we go. Boom. We can fold out here as well. Now, the next part is we're just going to fold in. So this is going to be just a little bit of a fold here that'll give us our nose. Okay, we fold in here. We're getting our ears actually, not our nose. So we don't want to fold too much. Just a. Oh, I see. So we have our ears. So we're actually going to fold the other way. That's where the ears come in. So once we have this, and we fold our back, we turn it over and we fold in these points, we're going to take this and then we can have two little ears. And what we can do is we can just fold the ears over. Now the reason why I say we'll use this side for the ears is because the other side actually makes cool ears too. But this one gives us a little bit more of a 3D pop in the ears that we can add, which is not really in the directions. So we can come in here and voila, we can have like our little mouse, we decorate it, we put the nose on it, and then we have the ears here, like I say, that are really cool. We have this really frilly lizard mouse, though we have like this cute pop of the ears. And so if we really want to give it even more pop, we can actually fold in, if we wanted to, we could fold in the ear, and then we can make it pop a little bit more out. Right, so then you have this nice little ear pop out, and it's pretty cool, I think. Ta-da! So, ta-da, our origami mouse. Okay. Our next topic concerns reading a physical book. The book I'm going to be reviewing today is The Phantom of the Opera. What a wonderful book. I really like how this mysterious thriller is gripping the audience into an atmosphere of layers. We're at the opera. What's happening at the opera? Well, who knows what's really going on, especially if you know what's going on with the booth. Yes, I mean the booth that is for the Phantom of the Opera. Quite a joke, hysterical to many, though the individuals that work in the environment are not finding as much comedy as hysteria. And looking at the responses to the Phantom, I find how interesting the opera becomes, because so much can happen at the opera. Not just for the employees, though for even the guests. Go figure. The Phantom of the Opera is a huge fan of the opera, like the biggest fan, though in such a strong relationship with what the opera represents. What is really going on behind the scenes? What helps the opera run? What is so important to the environment that the Phantom is not able to let go? And of course, the mysteriousness of all such things happening with particular parties knowing is quite fascinating. I really find the text is captivating in its writing, more so because of its happenings, though I find the relationships are curiosity branching from a myth, though a reality. And who is to know what's real in such an environment, even considering the happenings? The atmosphere itself is alluring, because the opera is a place to be, even with all of the mystery. I really like The Phantom of the Opera. I'm glad about finally reading the book after being so young and catching a glimpse of it, to running into the text again and deciding I'm going to read the book to know the story. I really enjoy the text, and I think the storytelling is very captivating, especially for any looking for a mystery or a thriller. Thank you for joining me for another episode of I Don't Know. We Can Talk About It. Onward and Upward, Kevin Dufresne.